clerk please call the roll? I still don't know how to do that.
Birmingham,
Here.
Hintz,
Here.
Stam,
Here.
Lasky, Ponick, Belter,
Here.
Palmieri.
On the way.
Mayor Palmieri indicated she'll be here shortly.
Okay, minutes from the March 16th meeting. Need a motion?
I move approval. I'll second.
Any additions or deletions or changes? That's a roll call vote.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter.
Aye.
Minutes are approved.
Item 22-02, approve continuing urban green space use southeast corner of Ida Avenue and Franklin Street.
Sure. This is an item that you have seen before. The RDA RDA board has worked with the neighborhood associations on using RDA lots as more, parklets in the community, in their neighborhood associations. So this is just to renew that approval to allow these uses here. The first one we're looking at is the corner of Ida and Franklin. And just some background, we haven't had any, complaints as far as like, complaints with like shoveling, it not being shoveled or not being mowed. Typically, actually, we were just talking something, usually it's the first one that is, when we go out and look. So, overall, we're happy with it. We haven't had any issues, and as you can see from some of the pictures, they do keep it up pretty well.
Do we have any idea of what the usage is?
Yeah, the usage for this one is more so just, I think, like they have some landscaping, and I think they have like maybe a little bench. So it's just kind of like a little meeting area, parkette, and you can kind of see they have like a little path going through there.
Is that a little plastic swimming pool there? What am I looking
No, I think it's just kind of like a little kind of structure that, they like you can kind of maybe you can like sit on or something. The stone, yeah.
Kind of decorative landscape.
Decorative landscaping, that's probably the word I was looking for. And in your packet, you do have the, after the other item, with the Central and Parkway, you have kind of just that initial approval that we had, and on there, it did say, this would be on an annual basis, that we would take a look at it and make sure that it was still working out, because it is a conditional use permit.
I'll move to approve 22-02.
Second.
Moved and approved. Motion made and seconded. Call the roll, please.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter.
Aye. Item 4, 22-03, approve continuing urban green space use southeast corner Central Street and West Parkway Avenue.
And this is very similar to the first one that we just were looking at. If you look at this one, it's got a couple different features, but somewhat the same, a little bit closer viewpoint of that, the decorative landscaping there, and then they have somewhat of a little kind of, not gazebo, I'm trying to think of the pergola. That's the word I was looking for. But again, they do have, just some, plants and a little path going through. So a nice feature in our central city.
I move 2203.
Second.
Motion and second. Call the roll, please.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter.
Aye. Item 22-04, approve determination of necessity, establish fair market value, authorized purchase of 122 West 9th Avenue for $40,000.
Sure. I'll present this one along with Jason and Sean. This is a property in, as you can see, it's in an area where the RDA has quite a few properties. On the screen there, you'll see that 122 is highlighted, but all the other vacant parcels, and then one of the houses just to the northeast is actually owned by the RDA. So this is an area where the RDA has started land banking and trying to put together a larger developable area. So this owner actually reached out to city staff and asked if if we would be interested in purchasing it. And that stems from a letter that he received when the city created the South Shore Redevelopment Plan. We send a letter to all the property owners within that plan, so they kind of are aware of future plans. And then about a year ago, we did talk about this with the RDA, and at that time, there wasn't as much interest to pursue it, so we let the property owner know that. But recently, as we started talking with RDA members more in previous meetings, we did have further conversations with the owner. He does not live in the house, and we did do an inspection, and there is quite a bit of work that would need to be done to get it up to code. And so we agreed on a price which is in the range that RDA members gave us guidance on. Jason or Sean, do you have anything else that you want to add?
I think when this came up to the RDA in closed session last August, which is noted in your packet, I think at that time there was an understanding that the house was in a condition where the RDA might be able to rent it, and if that was the case, why would the RDA get involved? I can say that I think that was done at the time without some real detailed inspection of the property. Jason and I had a chance to go over and meet with the owner and do a rather detailed inspection, and Jason has much more experience than I do looking at these kind of properties, but I think by his estimate, there was just, the electrical needed to be overhauled, the plumbing needed to be overhauled, HVAC needed to be overhauled, and the costs to bring this into any kind of a habitable condition were in excess of $50,000, you said. Yeah. So it is, unfortunately, and this owner has tried to reach out to other private parties to purchase it. They've not seen the value in putting the investment into making it a property that would be profitable to them. It is unfortunately a tear down property, and I don't know if you have anything else to add.
Well, that's good.
Doesn't look that bad.
It doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't on the outside. It's
Looks can be deceiving. Yeah.
I move approval of 2204.
I'll second.
Clerk, call the roll, please.
Okay. Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion carries.
No, you, oh,
I just have one question, one comment. I mean, it seems to me, related to our item 8, this is one area where it makes sense to kind of finish the job in terms of clearing that block. The other question is simply a very short-term one, and that is, in the short term, is this house that Advocap or somebody else could use for temporary housing?
It's,
And also, there is a company, a local company that does house moving. If it's, I suppose, got enough value to it. So there may be an opportunity for us to have a presentation about when we get homes that could be moved and reclaimed.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's any hurry to tear it down.
Give room on your
until
block.
we've explored.
Yep.
we can certainly look at it.
This one.
As I mentioned, Avocap does lease a home from us just to the northeast, this one right here. So we recently, I think, completed a lease agreement with them for another, I don't know how long,
I think it was 3 years.
3 years. But we can certainly take a look at this property and see if it's structurally sound. I think there's
Yeah.
quite a bit of items inside the house, so there might have to be some work being done with that.
Yeah, we did walk through the house. I've probably evaluated 300 to 400 houses when I used to work for an investor, and like a major item in this house is all the plumbing. The pipes froze. They didn't winterize it. There's just open, plaster to the studs and
So
sections
not
of the house.
salvageable.
It's in rough shape.
Yeah. So, again, my opinion, just with my background and experience, I don't see anybody, and like Sean said too, he reached out to other private investors and didn't have any bites on.
Right.
And I also did talk to Avacap about it as well, because we too had the thought that we could lease it out to them. So I left them a message. They called back after we walked through the house, and I told them, what the condition of it, and just, they're not interested in it in the condition that it is.
Okay, well, okay. But like you said, this is part of an area where we have started acquisition, so I think it's a good move, yeah.
I'll yield the gavel back to the chair.
Oh, if I could just catch up to speed, were items
We
3 and
passed
4?
everything.
We're not-
3 and 4 were approved.
Oh, they were?
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to let you guys know that I don't think there was a notice. The neighborhood association didn't receive notice of this.
Okay.
So I was going to suggest that we lay them over. My apologies, Oshkosh Bridge. Apparently very large boat needed to go through. Who knew? Sorry, so I was delayed. But in any event, I know that they would like to kind of reconsider some of the conditions. So maybe that could come on as a revision in another meeting.
We can reach out to them and we can bring it back to the RDA. Yeah, no, that sounds good.
So we are now at item 6.
Yes.
2205, authorized land disposition of 512 Otter Avenue to Habitat for Humanity for $1.
Sure, I can jump in with this
Have a
one.
Motion and a
A
second.
motion.
You do this, okay.
Second.
All right, discussion, go ahead.
Okay. This was a property that the RDA purchased, and as you know, we work with Habitat for Humanity quite a bit, and they did indicate that they would be interested in purchasing the lot from the city to use as a lot to build a new home. So Jason and Sean, anything that you want to add with this one? The house is demoed. Let's see if we have, there's a picture of it right now. Probably from a week or two ago. So it was demoed earlier this year, and it will be planted with grass seed. So,
Where's the house?
yeah. Anything else to add, Sean or Jason?
No, it's in the River East neighborhood. Like I said, we recently raised it. There was a garage off the alley that was raised. The slab's been removed. We do recommend that when the house is rebuilt, that a garage is included with the reconstruction. I talked to Tom Simon about that from Habitat, and he said that's no problem. They build garages with all their homes, so.
Yeah, that's a recent, in recent years that's become part of the general practice. I know that's going to happen with Grove Street
Yes.
garages and
Yes.
that too.
Yes.
So if we donate this, does it pay to put grass seed in this?
That just, to meet code, to finish the job, since it was taken down, probably, what was it, March?
It's just in March, yeah, but Habitat doesn't plan to build on it for some time, apparently.
Yeah, so their program is they offer 2 lots to buyers, and until somebody chooses this lot, it's going to be sitting like this. They just acquired 6 properties on Grove Street that sound like they're going to be
Breaking ground
kind of
this
hot
summer,
hot
though.
tickets
Yeah.
for
Yep.
potential and future home owners. So he expected this one to maybe sit for a couple of years.
Okay.
Yeah.
So until they get through the Grove Street properties at least.
Yeah, to meet city code, we'll restore it and just have grass on it. But the good thing is Habitat will be maintaining it
Yep.
and not us.
Right.
What are the setback requirements?
For this,
40-foot lot?
yeah, they are going to have, some challenges. The garage will most likely be in the back like it was in the previous.
So you need a road to the garage and then the setback from the property line. You're gonna have like a 20-foot wide house.
Well, we'll,
It's actually got an alley.
yeah, it has an alley from the back going through, so we'll work with them. We understand that's something that the city is actually, we'll be talking about with council, how we can encourage more infill lots. So that's something, an initiative that we are gonna work with, because we do want, new houses to be built on these, so.
A city setback requirement that I don't know about?
I don't know what the setback is for that zoning. It's probably single family, so my guess is it's probably 5 feet or less, just based on kind of looking at everything.
All right. So, any further discussion on that? If not, please call the roll.
Birmingham,
Aye.
Hintz,
Aye.
Stam,
Aye.
Belter,
Aye.
Palmieri.
Aye.
Motion carries.
And the EPA grant update.
Yes, I am going to turn this over to Jason and Sean, who have been involved with this.
Great. Yeah, this is really not an action item for you, but more, it's an update. This is a requirement of the grant that the city received, that we provide a regular update to the community, and this is achieving this in one light here. If many of you recall that have been here for some time, the city applied for an EPA, an environmental hazardous substances assessment grant back in 2019 that we received. It's a $300,000 grant. It goes for a period of 3 years, and the city can use it for assessing properties for any environmental issues that are there, and determining the extent of those issues, determining what remediation actions may need to be taken. We can't use the grant for the actual cleanup itself, but there are other grants available for that the city has historically used, and that we're continue to look to use for these kind of projects. I just quickly let you know that, the services that we receive through this grant, as I said, it's helpful in determining the actions that are necessary to remediate the property. It also helps us provide future owners of the property, in the case, for example, with Mill on Main and T-Wall properties. It helps us inform them what environmental due diligence is there, so that they don't necessarily have to go to some of the extraneous extents that they need to determine environmental issues, and then we're able to kind of pre-qualify properties for potential environmental grants that we may receive. So,
I'm sorry, which properties did this cover besides T-Wall?
there's a series of them. I've got them listed here, and then
That's okay.
Is there,
Good segue.
Is there, and then maybe there's, I don't know if, is there a map at the end of this kind of as well that shows probably more of
Yeah.
the T-Wall area?
There's no map.
Maybe, okay, well, boy.
It's okay. We can.
Yeah, so this is, really, this slide just shows the T-Wall area, the Mill on Main project area. It's broken out by parcels itself, but we highlight the phase one that was done on every property in that area, and the dates are listed there. Some of the other parcels have had other, more extensive projects of phase two, and then there were, in some areas, some underground storage tanks that were recognized and removed. This slide here is just showing other sites across the city. The one at the very bottom is the property across the street from T-Wall, that 700 block of South Main. That one we're continuing to work on right now. It's had both a phase one as well as a phase two environmental site assessment. There were some leaking underground storage tanks that were identified there and removed. And then there's kind of a list of some of the other properties around the community that this grant has been used for. Starting at the top, the old tavern that was purchased last year up on North Main at 668.
By our Jefferson Street properties.
Right, yeah, on the other
Yeah.
side of those properties.
Just out of curiosity, so the former Boatworks property,
Correct, yep.
would that also include the little island there next to the trestle bridge?
That's actually
That-
part of the park. That's not RDA
Oh.
property. Yeah.
Okay, that, I wasn't sure.
Yeah.
It's kind of mysterious.
Right.
Yeah, and that was, though, all, when the property lines were different back in 2005, there was a phase one and a phase two done on that entire area at that time. Since the development of the Riverwalk through that area, the parcel lines have been divided. A good portion of that property has been dedicated as parkland. So what remains, when we refer to the former Boatworks property now, that's kind of that area, the squared off area that remains right on the corner of
Where
4th
the
and Michigan.
development, where the Wiesenberg
Yes.
development's going.
Correct,
So
yeah.
not including the park
Correct.
and not including the little island.
As it relates to this recent phase one
Okay.
assessment that was done.
I
But there is.
just happened to notice
yeah.
there were a lot of vegetation cut down over the weekend. I mean, it probably happened previously, but it looked like there's some preliminary stuff the tree stumps and that.
My
sticking
guess, that was
out.
probably in the park area.
Okay.
Yeah.
Got it.
But that other area did have some environmental work that was done back in 2005 and 2007, and that brownfield site is actually closed now through the DNR, so they recognize that as a closed site. So this is all the properties that this grant has been used on so far. We've only used about 130,000 of the 300,000 as of December 31st. We're still awaiting some updated numbers for expenses that have been made so far in 2022. Chances are we're not going to be able to use the full 300,000 by September 30th of this year when the grant period ends, but we do have the ability to apply, and we do expect to be applying for an extension to that through the EPA, and don't see any reason why that won't be continued. So we are able to use this grant any location throughout the city for environmental assessments that are needed. And
So then, for example, some of the stipulations on those sites that we put out for the potential community garden usage by groups, and we indicated that they must use above-ground raised beds that are lined because of potential lead contamination. Could some of those scattered sites also benefit from this type of, for soil conditions?
I mean, we could do the site assessment, but we wouldn't be able, if we found issues, then we would have to figure out how we were going to remediate it. So that was part of the issue, why we wanted them to do the above-ground raised beds, just because then, we would have to figure out how we were going to remediate the site or take care of the contamination. So,
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, so at that point, I don't know if they'd be able to use it then or what, but I think that was kind of the reasoning, a
Right.
year or two ago, why, we were running into those issues.
Right, because there had been a request
Yes.
to test for lead,
Yes,
and we said no poke
right.
because of that reason, but I
Right.
guess then it seems to me that if we do have the funding, we could,
We'd have the funding to do the site assessment.
but not
and
the
that-
remediation.
Right.
Okay,
So then that's where we would have to figure out, okay, how are we gonna pay for this if there is something?
Okay.
And at that point, if the group that was gonna do the community garden, would they stay, would they go?
right, because there is another group that is interested now in potential looking at that. The Humanity First Foundation arm of the Ahmadiyya Mosque had some
Okay.
conversations last
Okay.
week about interested in finding out more.
Okay, okay. But we are trying to promote this program as much as we can with all of our development projects. When we purchase the homes, we do a phase one just so we have that information. So we're doing what we can to utilize those funds.
Need to give money back.
Absolutely. Anything else, Sean?
No, I was just going to add to what Kelly was saying. I mean, the remediation would only be necessary if there are, results from a phase two environmental site assessment determine
okay.
that there are, particulates that are in excess of the state standards. So, I mean, in a lot of cases, you might say find lead where they dug up some
Right.
lead pipes. You might find some small particulates of lead in the soil that don't exceed the state DNR requirements. We're not required to clean it up, but does that create a concern for a person that's going to be growing vegetables there, for example?
Sure, sure.
you know,
I mean,
yeah.
seems to me we would just go back to the original
Right.
Right.
requirement of the lined beds, but,
Yep.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, that's all I had on this. Any other questions on this grant? I'd happy to answer any, or if you have any, if you'd like to call or email afterwards, that's fine as well.
Covered it all, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And then it looks like we may want to do a motion to lay over on the land banking strategy item 8.
Well, we do have a few members that were able to come that weren't, so it's up to the group if they want everybody here, or if we at least want to start the discussion or continue it on really from before. This is something that we've been talking about a lot, as far as strategy to, which properties the RDA purchases and acquires. In the past, it's been, obviously, we've had some core redevelopment areas, and then there's also been some areas, just more scattered sites as opportunities present themselves. So I'm just going to, we kind of have a few of the areas here. Marion Road, for the most part, that's pretty much all developed, which is really exciting. The 3 or 4 red parcels you see there, the one right on the river, that is actually going, the ATC power lines are right over it, so building under that would be very challenging. But we do work with Mercury Marine, and they kind of use some of that area for kind of some of their seasonal parking. And then the areas on Jackson Street, that was space that the RDA was saving for future right-of-way, if needed, when Jackson Street was ever reconstructed. So we are having those conversations about the Oregon-Jackson Street Bridge reconstruction. Council will be considering that at their June 14th council meeting. So they might need some of that, I'm not sure. But if we get to that point where it's determined that they don't need it, then we'll have to maybe work to see, what we could do with that area along Jackson Street. And then our Oshkosh Avenue area, this is that intersection, or one of the favorite intersections in Oshkosh, that Sawyer-Oshkosh Ave intersection. So as part of TID 35, which is all that Oshkosh Ave redevelopment you see next to the Oshkosh Corporation Global Headquarters, we're kind of saving our money there that we're getting from that TID, and we're going to hopefully apply it to this reconstruction. So it will be a little bit easier to get into Rainbow Park. And so we have those properties under our control right now. That bait shop is still up, and we actually own the building, but they lease it, and they pay us a monthly fee. And it's a great amenity for the marina or for the launch anyway. So we hope there's something we can do to try to accommodate them when we do that road reconstruction. But right now, we do have those parcels, ready for that project.
What are the options as far as those to the west of what we have now?
Those properties are actually for sale right now. Before they were listed, the broker did reach out to us. It was a little bit more money than we preferred to spend. So we passed, especially since technically we don't need it for our project. But it is something, we won't need all of that red area for the road. So there still might be some leftover space that we're going to have to figure out, something to do. So if that is something that RDA would like to look at, we can certainly bring more information about those properties. And I believe it's all 4 of them that are for sale as part of that. There's, I think the property owner owns all of them.
Oh, okay.
So I think they're
Isn't there an
probably,
issue because of State Highway
as far as,
21?
no,
No?
this is city jurisdiction, state jurisdiction for like the state highway. That starts over by the roundabout, but we can do what we need to do in this area.
Okay.
Yeah. And then the other question that we've been having with engineering is, connecting to Rainbow Drive. Is it something that we'll need to look at acquisition of other properties? And with all of the, bipartisan, infrastructure law funding coming through, it's kind of forcing us to take a look at a lot of our projects that are out there because there might be funding opportunities. So that's kind of a process we're going through right now. So it might be something that we might be coming back with.
Is the thought with engineering then that these that we have, that Sawyer and, is that Rainbow or Pinocqua?
Rainbow.
Rainbow,
Yeah.
okay. That somehow that may get straightened out somehow, I mean.
Yeah, what we're looking at is kind of having Sawyer, ideally, if you'd ask an engineer, they would just, want us to acquire, those 2
Right.
properties to the north and have it go straight in. And then that access, where Rainbow comes onto Oshkosh would be closed. So that's kind of what we're working through right now to try to figure that out. And thinking what's going to be using with like boat traffic and everything, we wanted to make sure it's, functional and easy for people to maneuver through.
Don't forget about the bikes.
And the bikers too. The South Shore. So this is kind of our I think really one of our next redevelopment areas, which is really exciting because we already have some great catalyst projects being proposed or actually already completed with the arena. In this map, it should include the red in the middle there too, for 43 7th. But as you know, we're still working with T-Wall, and so everything is going pretty well. We're working through kind of the environmental side, and they're still planning on the fall construction start. So at this point, what we would be looking for guidance is, obviously, we talked about this, the property at 122 9th Ave right now that, is something to kind of get this, block, get, other properties, acquired here. And then this property is sold also, so we'll have to change that. But we also still have this block. We actually have this as a parking lot right across from Evil Roy Slades. So that's something we've talked about. Maybe could we get some of this parking lot over here to try to make this site a little bit more developable also. And then we are still working with the owners of 1203 South Main. That was of that property right across from the arena that you authorized us to purchase. It's kind of caught in bankruptcy right now and back and forth between attorneys. So we're still working on it. We're still interested in it, but we have not acquired it yet. And then this is just kind of an aerial photo of some of those areas, that we do have, we do own. And then, of course, we go to Jefferson Street. That's another area that there are some opportunities for acquisition. As I had mentioned, the owner of Electronic Industries, they are moving to the old tent and awning building out in the North Industrial Park on Furnow. And so we've had some discussions with their building. We have talked to the owner of 664 North Main. They have a business, which I'm not sure if the business is still active, on the bottom floor, and she lives in the upper floor. And then there's a local developer owner that owns these 3 parcels here. And then this is that old auto shop that I think part of the building was torn down, and there was plans. We were approved to do a gas station, but they have not moved forward with it, and they have indicated that they'd be willing to sell. So
They changed their mind on their price?
I do not believe so, or I've not at least been contacted regarding that. So
Didn't you say over the last, 6 months or a year that there was some interest in this again? Do we have anything shaking out on that?
we have a lot of folks that we're showing the property to. The one big thing that we're waiting on is the WIDA for the tax credits. They're
Rescoring?
yes. And I believe we're still waiting for that. I don't think we've seen the new scoring. Because you just, I think Sean and Jason, who gave the tour this week?
I gave one last week.
Okay,
Sean gave one a month or two ago to another developer from out of town.
All right, yeah.
and then there's one. So and we've had a couple conversations in between there too. So it's pretty constant, but a lot of them are waiting on the WIDA tax credits because this is in a low income qualified census tract, and it's in an opportunity zone.
Yep.
So it's score a little bit higher than some other areas. So this is another area where, I guess we would like feedback, from RDA. We do have some properties here that we could acquire, and it would make the parcel, have a little bit more developable area. Granted, we're not getting the properties at, 50 cents on assessed dollar. So that's kind of a mindset, change that, we might need to look at.
So are you saying with the Electronic Industries that's moving, they're selling?
They're kind of open to selling, leasing. They're open. So
Okay.
they've said they'd be very willing, to talk to us and see what we could do.
Well, the way I feel about it right now, I've said this many times, years and years and years go by, that block has not just been blighted, but it's uber blighted. So if there is an opportunity for the RDA to consider either proposals or put a timeline on if it's not developed by a certain date, we look at other uses, I hope that we can have that conversation.
think the new term is ultra blighted.
Ultra blighted.
Or the
It
ultra mega,
cannot,
ultra mega crowd.
it cannot get any, well, it can get worse, but yeah,
Yeah, and
it
we've,
looks really, really bad.
well, and we've been working with streets, so I don't know if you've been out there lately, but pretty much everything's removed as far
Oh,
as,
like, I'm talking about
Yeah,
even
no
down
moment.
here on the
oh,
old
I
auto-
see what you're
those
saying.
other
Yeah,
lots.
yeah, not the RDA property
Not ours.
specifically.
No,
Yeah, okay.
Not ours, but
Sure,
the-
okay.
The private ones.
Yeah, so, like I said, we've been in contact with the owner, you know, who has the 3 properties on Main Street. I've talked with the owner of 664.
Is
We've,
that pedestrian arts?
yes.
It is. She just finally decided to,
No, I just, I think open to it,
I
but,
see.
yeah, we would have to discuss that as far as what, you know, they'd be willing to sell it at. And then I've talked with the attorney, you know, for the owners that own that former auto shop.
Yeah.
How long do they have to get that cleaned up?
As far as
The blight there in the former,
well, if you
auto shop?
go by it now, this building
I
is,
go every day,
okay,
so,
I mean, this building is gone.
Yep.
And all these cars are the cars still there, or are they gone? I think they're
no,
gone.
they're gone, but it's still like now, the other remaining building.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just,
As long as they're not, if there's no code violations, as far as, you know, from a city code perspective, it can stay. So we're hopeful, once we actually get that scoring from WIDA, that there'll be some movement, because I can probably, with confidence, say we've talked with half a dozen developers from different organizations that have expressed interest in Jefferson, but they're really waiting on that, you know.
but I think in the bigger picture too, as we're talking about the land banking strategy, you know, it may be an opportunity for RDA and Plan Commission at some point to have a joint workshop in talking about density, because we've been pushing density, and and that makes sense, but it also becomes, I think, a little bit of a challenge when, I mean, we do have, you know, at least a third of the population in this like 1.5, 2 square miles. You know, at what point do we look at not de-densifying, but spreading some of that density outside of downtown? I mean, we do run into some challenges. It looks like that EJ screen tool, the
Yeah.
environmental justice, shows, you know, because of traffic counts and things like that, some air quality concerns. So I guess in the bigger picture, when we're talking about that, as well as land banking with some of these long-term lease where the land is still owned by the city, but homes get built and affordable homes get built. Maybe there are some other creative things that this group can consider.
Sure. And that's going to be part of our housing study discussion when we have our workshop next week.
Yeah.
With council, we'll be talking about density. So I think once we have, I'm kind of jumping ahead here on this item, but once we have that housing study workshop with council next week, we'll probably be coming back to the RDA with hopefully some guidance of, you know, some of the initiatives that they want to do and share that with the RDA. Because I think, you know, RDA is going to play a big part in us implementing the housing study.
Absolutely.
So kind of with that, you know, I'll give you kind of a sneak peek a little bit of the housing study of the workshop we're going to have. Some of the things that we've been talking about are those targeted areas. And sometimes it's, you know, it could just be like the South Shore where, you know, we have an opportunity to purchase a big parcel of land and then we kind of, you know, do some, you know, more work around it, or else maybe it's a big redevelopment project. Let's just say maybe the former Geldwin site, you know, something actually, you know, is developed there. Maybe we want to look at those surrounding neighborhoods and see if we can help with any improvements with, you know, from that standpoint. So that's something that I hope that council gives us guidance on of how they would like us to, pursue our acquisitions and, the information that we share with you, and if there's certain areas. We've even talked about, like, between the two schools, the new Val Phillips School and then the new Webster, there's a lot of houses in there, and is that something, we should look at focusing on certain neighborhoods also? So, those will just kind of be some of the discussions that I think we're gonna have moving forward. But in the meantime, something else I did want to share with you is South Main Street. We've always talked about reconstructing that and expanding the width. We talked about taking it kind of that 20 feet we need off the east side because the RDA owned a lot of that land. And we were approved to be in the Connecting Highways program. So they're looking at like 2031-ish. So in the next, 8-9 years, this project might come. So we might have some acquisition in our future too, coming with that to accommodate that. But that will be another, I think, big project in the South Shore area also. And then I guess something else in the South Shore that I didn't mention, I'm trying to find a better map here. I don't have one, is the Allrow building has been sold. It was sold about probably a month or so ago. From a city standpoint, it's zoned heavy industrial, so if somebody wants to go in and do a heavy industrial use, they can. We did say just because of the future redevelopment plans, the city would most likely not be supportive of like expanding the building or, having like outside storage or something. So I do have the contact from the, a person that owns it, and I was just gonna give them a call and just kind of see what their future plans are for the areas, or long-term, short-term, and then reiterate, what our plans are, because they did communicate with the city before they purchased it, which we did tell them it's in a, this is gonna be a redevelopment area, here's our plan, and then kind of gave them that information of what we would be supportive of or not.
What kind of company purchased it?
I believe it is Bolt. They have a division that does like I consider like modular, not homes, but just like buildings that like maybe, I think like they use them for COVID, like testing and vaccinations, where they kind of had them set up like in parking lots or different areas. And I like picture FEMA or, military with like
So
hospitals.
They would not do storage of those things here.
We indicated we would not be supportive of that.
Okay.
So we hope, the building itself had quite a few high ceilings and didn't have a lot of, poles for the structures in the middle. So I think that was kind of something that was attractive. And then just having an existing building with, the way construction costs are today.
How about Morgan?
Morgan site, within our South Shore redevelopment area, we still do not know the owners of that property. I continue to work with the owner's representative. I talk with them on a regular basis, and they have indicated that, they're hoping to move forward with their plans soon, and they said that the city, will be pleased with the results. So it's something that we're hoping to, learn more information about, hopefully in the near future.
They've got a forest growing there.
That's something-
Those trees are like 12, 15 feet.
We have been talking about that. Yep.
Hey, we could have an urban forest along riverfront.
Yep, no, we've been talking about that exact item. So, whatever development we can get on the
They're good
river.
trees, I won't complain.
So, yeah, so I guess, just kind of with those conversations, are there any, like I said, this is not something we're gonna decide on today, but is there any just observations, comments, anything with, land banking and, or, how staff should look at approaching, potential opportunities? And, we talked about the infill housing, and we also think that's a great thing too. So, we're kind of looking at all options at this point.
Just for fun, since everybody else is standing in line to get ARPA money, and there's $100 million worth of requests, you could put out some $5 million splash project requests that would buy the Pioneer Island and turn into a park, or take part of the river or buy a building or buy a block, something that really was transformative because it's a one-time in our lifetime funding opportunity. So, and as a city planner, you would know what you want to plan, so.
Right.
Are you suggesting the RDA put in a
No,
request?
no, it's city planning. But whoever has to be the
I
point
said
person.
somebody else might have more pull with
Well, I
that
mean, I-
as a council member.
It would have to be outstanding and.
A catalyst project
Yeah,
that would really
that's better word.
transform,
Right.
yeah. And, and that's, we talk with the, I'll call it, the owners that have some of those properties in the city that are very, we consider them, high level, important properties such as the Pine Year and even, City Center and the Morgan District that would have a big impact on our community, a once in a
I
generational
like that-
type.
That little downtown plaza in Neenah, right by the Plexus building is
Oh, it's
really,
lovely.
really cool.
Yes.
And certainly costs a lot of money,
Yeah.
so something like that, whichever place you would put it,
And that is something that the city is engaged with the Convention and Visitors Bureau, the Chamber, the Foundation. We are looking at that,
Plaza.
based from the CVB study there. So that is something we are actually looking at doing.
And can you go back to the eastern part of the South Shore map?
Yep.
I thought at one point there was, I want to say maybe around 7th, go a little further south. South Main and 7th, there was, it seemed to me a proposal at one point about this kind of, it was like partially green plaza, like amphitheater type style, but multi-uses. And I don't remember who had that idea, but did that just get fizzled or?
I think what it was is on the block between 7th and 8th here, this is where that old gas station is, and there's some hot spots there for contamination. So we talked about doing like a little pocket park, and they also talked about doing almost like a little public market area
Yes,
where
yes.
people could come in, because we all know that, concrete is a great cap for contamination. So I think that was some of the thought behind that to do that. And that's something we actually, when we do talk with folks that are interested in that parcel, we do talk about that as an option, so, because there would be quite a bit of remediation that would need to take place on that frontage there because of, the level of contamination.
But might that be, I know some of the destination assessment and plaza discussions have kind of focused on north of the river, but might that, are they talking at all about looking south of the river for something along those lines?
I think right now they are focused on north. So that would be, a conversation that we'd have to take a look at. But I think in the future, this is something we are planning for when we do have more of a population living and working down in the South Shore. We are looking at what we can be doing for more placemaking and, that sort of thing.
Well, and to Tom's point, though, it seems like were there something catalytic in that regard? I mean, this whole area was supposed to be catalytic, and things are happening. With the T-wall imminently done, and some other amenities, as well as the access to the Riverwalk, and that it seems like there might be an opportunity for coalescence there.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'll email you an idea that I had.
Okay.
It's cool.
I
Because it's
want to hear
mine.
more.
Well, and
No. I was closing off 6th Street between Maine and Oregon. You still have Nebraska for access. And then putting up some Santa Monica Pier kind of arches to welcome you to this little plaza off the river with the river walk
So
running through.
competing with San Antonio
Oh,
Riverwalk.
yeah.
yeah, I mean, but, and that's the sort of information, the ideas that we're having for that placemaking where it is, it might be pedestrian, mall, pedestrian plaza area. And I think there's a lot of opportunities in this area. So we're very excited about, moving on kind of to our next redevelopment area now that Marion Road is, completed or getting close to it at least, and, seeing what we can do down here. Is there any other questions or I guess comments about any other, redevelopment ideas. There are still some properties out here that we try to keep tabs on, on the river and other places, including up even by Meritor, on their property and down over here just on the other side of Broad.
One thing that did come up here recently is discussion about potential acquisition of Congress Field from the university.
Oh, East Hall?
No, East
Okay.
Hall, apparently between the school district and the university, they are planning a, I guess, athletic use at East Hall.
Where's the Congress Field?
Congress Field would be further east than East Hall,
Okay.
off of Congress Avenue.
Isn't that where they're building the school?
No.
That's-
Is this it, like where the top lot
Yes,
is?
yes, that's it right there.
Yeah, I think, we just did work to do it with the neighborhood, Great Neighborhoods. We did a tot lot there.
Yes, it's on the north side.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, over here.
So the university owns this piece.
Okay.
And, I had long, and other neighbors had long been interested in East Hall. And so the consolation discussion is that the university is interested in having conversations with us about acquiring this as a potential parkland or other
Okay.
use or,
Okay.
so it might be an opportunity to, we probably should maybe check with Mark. I think he and Andy or, I'm not quite sure where that discussion
Okay.
is. It just came up like
Okay.
very recently.
Okay. Yeah, so I mean, there are, we have some great neighborhood associations being formed up here. We have the Congress, and then we have the Bentwoods. There's a lot, so I think it's.
Yeah, it's actually got 3 sides of formal neighborhood association. Congress Fields, or Congress, what do they call themselves?
Isn't
Congress Ave?
Yeah, Congress, I'm trying to put the neighborhood associations here on. Congress Field
Congress Field
Yeah.
is the name of the location,
Yeah.
but the neighborhood association.
is Congress Field.
Okay.
Yep,
And then Historic Jackson
yep,
to the east.
yep.
And then over to
Bentwoods.
the west, Bentwoods.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's exciting to have that too. That really is great for, our central city.
I suppose too, given that if you go further south on here, as far as, we know that it's in the 2025 CIP for Central City park space acquisition. I know that Midtown attempted to get a micro park space and they were shot down. Middle Village, we have these little tiny slivers. Historic Fourth Ward, they're home to like 1.65 acres, but might there be an opportunity to progress that conversation for those neighborhoods that between Menominee North, Midtown, Historic Fourth Ward, Middle Village, and now the Downtown Neighborhood Association? Kind of going back to the once in a lifetime funding.
A lot of money to spend, so,
Yeah, big decisions.
with a deadline to spend it.
Right. So, any other comments about, certain areas, that you would be interested in looking at, redevelopment or I guess anything?
Kelly, can you go up the river there by the university where the Wyowash is going to be potentially rerouted? The segment that is currently going through that kind of wooded area, but maybe rerouted along the water. What are the options there? Has there been any discussion about that?
There has been. We've actually had pretty frequent conversation right now with Cummings taking over, or at least proposing to purchase Meritor here. Those conversations are stalling a little bit, but we're still continuing to have that conversation. Because as you can see, the trail goes right through the middle here.
Yep.
And we have a few options to get around, but ultimately we would want that on the river and then to come up here and then to join back in.
So Meritor does own that parcel.
That's correct.
And they don't really have any interest in disposing?
With
no.
past conversations, they have not. Anything else then for this item?
Well, only thing that I think might be helpful for this group too is, you know, when you look at the city map and we have these little, I call them the Swiss cheese islands of town of Oshkosh. You know, those little segments that are throughout the central part of the city that are town of Oshkosh. Has that been talked about or mapped out and discussed in ways of filling in those holes, or?
Well, with the town of Oshkosh, you can kind of see up here, it's pretty prevalent around the Jackson Street corridor and a little bit over here. And then as you get towards the northwest, we do not have a boundary agreement with the town. So the property owner could choose to annex into the city, but there's nothing that we can force them to. With Algoma, we do have a boundary agreement with them, and we do have a planned timeframes when certain properties will be attached into the city.
These are, yeah, these are kind of, these are the ones I'm kind of wondering about, like, how did we end up with, you know,
Yeah,
funky little, I think there's a triangle somewhere, maybe further south or
yeah, so
somewhere.
for example, these properties kind of in this area, everything that is in the town that's on this side, on the east side of Clairville, will be coming into the city in March of 2023. So
Okay.
that's part of the next phase. It was in 2018 was the last one, and then the next phase is coming forward in the next year.
Okay,
Yeah.
that answers my question.
Yep. Yes. But, you know, as a city, when we're working with people, if they want to attach in, we make sure that we don't have islands because it becomes difficult. Excellent.
It also becomes difficult for other maps.
Yep, yes. Yes, so. If there's nothing else, I can move on to the next item.
I did notice one thing the other day when I was coming down through Rainbow Park on the bike trail, that someone was actually had their vehicle on the bike trail.
Oh,
Yeah.
We need some signage there or
I
something.
thought we used to have a big rock right there. Did we lose that?
well, when we put the new trail in here, it's not on this map, but we do have the new trail that goes along here. So we actually have talked about putting a bollard or rock back in. So thank you for that reminder. We will definitely talk to Parks about that. Because people probably had their fishing or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Their whole van parked there.
Yeah.
They all are.
Yeah.
Tailgating, right?
Yeah. Okay. Excellent. Okay. Was there anything else with this one? Otherwise, I can go to the director's report.
One last thing, and that is over where the trail goes up to Tribal Heritage, where the Riverwalk connects with Tribal Heritage. Bike and Pedestrian Committee, we kind of had this brief discussion about when you go to 41 and the trail ends there, you know, there's that kind of downgrade slope, and it ends there. You know, is there any, I guess, interest or opportunity for being able to come under the bridge and boardwalk up here so that there is a bike ped way of avoiding, you know, crossing 41 instead going kind of under and then boardwalking in somehow with, what is that marina called?
Skipper Buds. And,
Buds.
yeah, and actually, I think the DOT does still own this area here, or else the town of Algoma. I don't know if it's been, because, yeah, the town owns this. So, yeah, we would have to see. I actually think we did look at that option when we were working on that. I think it was just cost prohibitive just with the, you know, the grades of everything. But from a safety perspective, yes, going under bridges with the Riverwalks is always much better. Yeah.
This is a little off track, but I'm very aware that we've got an awful lot of rental housing coming online in our urban area. Are we trying to anticipate a little bit about what the possible consequences of this is? I mean, T-Wall, the boat works, Rio building, or whatever it is, under construction right now. I mean, we've got hundreds of units that are going to be coming on.
We're about, what, 400 behind?
Yeah, so kind of with that, there's a very low vacancy right now, I think under 2% for multifamily units. And then we know that we do have a deficit. And just for example, the Brio building above the co-op, I think that's pretty much all,
Already?
it was 100%. And I think over the winter, it went down, but they're anticipating it'll be back up to 100. So I know that the developers that we're working with, they're doing their homework as far as a market analysis to see if, there is a market here to, attract people to their units. And it appears that there is, because they're moving forward with projects. But we do know that there is a need for them. We do know that there's more people that want to live, have different types of apartment units in the central city and on the river where they can enjoy those amenities. So I think, hopefully we're hoping that, maybe some folks will see this new type of housing, nicer housing on the river, and then maybe they'll sell their house that they have, in that established neighborhood, and it'll kind of be a domino effect where then somebody can buy that and, kind of just move the market a little bit. So, I know some of the developers, they have a methodical way of, the phases that they do, where they make sure that they are able to absorb, there's enough of an absorption rate, where, somebody will, they'll get the renters in.
So what are the consequences that you're concerned about, Steve,
Well,
of having rentals?
not that I'm really concerned about them, but, that's a lot of people coming in, and I'm delighted to see it fill up. One, how does it affect traffic?
Yes.
What about walking?
Congestion.
What is that going to mean in terms of commercial development, in terms of supporting? It's not as though there's any action that actually has to be taking place, but I just think it's a good idea to kind of run some scenarios through about what the second and third degree impacts of all these people
Yeah.
coming in.
And we do that quite a bit, we do traffic impact analysis if we're gonna see a big increase in certain areas where it might be stressing certain intersections or something, we wanna make sure that traffic can function properly. And we also even just look at services. We work with like police and fire saying, there's going to be X, kind of look at the heat maps where we see that growth and how that might, in the future, what, might look like for where our fire stations are, or where, the police, routes are and everything. So we do try to really look at how it would impact the city's services as a whole, and of course utilities and all of those items that we need to consider where you have that denser, that concentration of people. And then just green space and amenities, for people to enjoy the outside and everything too. Yeah.
And that many more toilets flushing in the.
Yeah, right.
It's a thing. And when we were planning the arena, we were planning for that halftime flush. So, if you probably too much information, but the sanitary lines are going to a couple different mains in that area, just so we can make sure that, we had the capacity and everything to serve it. So, if there's nothing else with this item, I can move on to the executive director's report. Nothing too major, we've talked about quite a bit already that was probably in here, but a lot of our projects are still moving along pretty well, in the areas of our redevelopment. And the Morgan Crossing Phase 2, they are looking at starting construction, but unfortunately, they just told us they're getting some delays with some of their materials. That is unfortunately not uncommon, for us to be hearing about that with certain materials. So they're still moving forward, but the project might not be done as quickly as anticipated. And if you've been down on South Main Street, you've seen our River Walk is under construction. So it's really exciting to see that segment going through. And we're working on the design phases now, moving forward with the rest of the Pioneer Drive area, the north-south segment. And obviously, when the Pioneer Island is developed or something happens, we'll be doing the River Walk in that area also.
And is it my understanding it's no longer being thought that would cut through the island, that it would go more along the edge after all?
Well, yeah, right now, we have an easement around the whole island. So the plan that we have, the settlement agreement that we are a party to with the DNR, the State Land Trust, the owner, it is to go around in this pink area here you see, and then down the way down to the breakwater. But we have had some initial conversations with DNR, and depending what the development is that goes on out there, they do have some flexibility, because obviously that agreement was made when the intention was to rebuild kind of in that area. So if the project scope changes, they have indicated that they'd be willing to work with us to where it makes sense to put that river walk. But the big thing is, to get people out to the state land, out to the point here. So we'll do what we can to make sure, that we can get folks over there and then up here in this area too. So if nobody has any questions with any other projects, that's all I have then.
Archie brought up a good point, because we maintain these vacant lots.
Yes.
Are we subscribing to the no mow May to keep our costs down? Well-
Seriously, not just cost, but I mean, contributing to the benefit, right?
Yep, that is something we have talked about, and we actually have a new contractor that's going to be maintaining the RDA properties. So it is something we had talked about, if it would make sense in certain situations to do the no mow May. So, yeah.
What are these
And-
people
and-
gonna do in the grass?
No.
I was just gonna say.
Last year it
so There
was-
is a goat farm directly across the lake.
There is, you're
And
right.
some cities are
Brady owns it.
using little mini herds of goats to
Oh, really?
take care of their weeds, buckthorn, and
Well, you
grass.
brought up, is it Eastfield? What is that?
Congress Field or East Hall?
East Hall,
East Hall, the
which
university.
is full of dandelions right now. I mean, it's as yellow can get. I took a walk through there the other day. There was not one bee in there, but I walked across the street, and there's a tree blossoming, and there's swarms of bees in there.
Wow.
So, this professor, I don't have a PhD in my title, but I'll tell you what, there's some flawed thinking there in my mind.
But yeah,
I take it you're not a fan of dandelions.
I am not.
last year though, at the end of No Mow May, there were some challenges that folks had
Yes.
because
Sure.
their lawn was pretty long and their lawnmower could not handle it. So we did see that quite often. So know you're the limits of your lawnmower, or have to hire somebody to do it.
Thank you.
Yeah. So next meeting is July 13th, and we'll see everybody then. Let's do.